Okay, so here we are onto sketching a quadratic. Now this is going to take all the knowledge from the previous couple of videos and pile it into one thing. So we're being asked to sketch the graph of y equals 2x plus 10, x minus 1. Label clearly your roots, turning point, y-intercept, and axis of symmetry. So to start off with, I'm actually just going to draw my axes so I'm ready to sketch things on as I figure them out. And you must do the sketching part, even if all your numbers and calculations are correct at the side. If you don't sketch it, you won't get any marks. So I've got my x and y axes ready. So to start off with, the very first thing I want to find out is my roots. And remember, always y is going to equal 0 because the roots is where it crosses the x-axis. So y is always going to be 0 there. So using that, I'm going to take my equation. I'm going to set y equal to 0. And then I have my bit on the right-hand side here. So now I've got two brackets multiplied to give me 0. So I need to solve them. And that means one of my brackets has to equal 0. So I would take away 10 on both sides to give me 2x equals minus 10, and then divide by 2 to give me x equals negative 5, or I just add 1, so x equals 1. So the points where my parabola is going to cross the graph is somewhere around x minus 5, and I'm just going to label that there, and somewhere around x as 1. So I've got my two little roots labelled on. Then I'm going to just find my axis of symmetry, just so I'm ready for it. So my axes, and remember that sort of helps us determine where our turning point is going to be. So I want to find out the x value that's in between my negative 5 and my 1, because it's got to be somewhere down here. Easiest way to do it is if I add my two x values together. Add my two x values together and then divide by 2. So minus 5 add 1 is going to be minus 4. Divided by 2, it's going to be negative 2. So I'm just going to write that a little neater. X equals negative 2. So somewhere in the middle, that is going to be my axis of symmetry where x equals negative 2. Next thing I want to find out is my turning point. So I'm going to use my axis of symmetry x value because it's going to be somewhere on that line. And so into my formula, I've got y equals 2 times that 2, or 2 times that negative 2 even, because x is negative 2 in our axes, plus 10, and then negative 2 minus 1. So 2 times negative 2, that's going to be negative 4, plus the 10, that's going to give me 6. The negative 2, take away 1, that's going to be negative 3. Then 6 times negative 3, that's going to be negative 18. So that means my turning point is going to be negative 2, negative 18. So I'm going to label that at any random point on my axis of symmetry line. So negative 2, negative 18. And now I can just sort of start sketching that curve. I've got one more thing to find out, but I can now join those dots. The last thing I want to find out is that y-intercept. So at the y-intercept, x is going to always equal 0. So we're going to take that idea and we're going to put it into our equation. So I've got y equals 2 times 0 plus 10, and then 0 minus 1. So that's just going to be 10 times minus 1, which is just going to give me negative 10. So on my graph, my y-intercept is going to be negative 10. And there I have all my bits of information. I have my roots, I have my turning point, I have my y-intercept, and I have my axis of symmetry going down the middle. So let's take a look at one more example quickly. So here I've got sketched graph of f of x equals x squared plus 12x. So it's still asking me the same stuff as before. I want my roots, y-intercept, turning point, axis of symmetry. But one thing that I need to do here is I need to factorize. So I've got my f of x, and then there's a common factor there, which is x. Inside the bracket is going to be x plus 12. So that's what I'm going to be working with. And remember that f of x, that's another kind of way for us to write y, so don't get thrown off by that. So I'm just going to set up my axes quickly, so I can just draw bits on as I discover them. Let's just draw that a little bit longer. So to start off with, I find my roots. So our y value is always going to be 0, so that means our f of x is 0. So either x is going to equal 0, or that x plus 12 equals 0. Doing my little bit of rearranging, just got to take away 12 on both sides there. So x equals negative 12. So it's either going to be at this 0 mark here, where it goes through, and it goes through this point here at negative 12. And then one thing which I can notice is that at that 0 mark, that is also my y-intercept because of where it crosses my y-axis. So I don't actually need to calculate my y-intercept. I've already got that information there. My y-intercept is just going to be at 0, 0. So now I need my axis of symmetry. So remember that's going to be in between my two x values. So x is going to equal 12 plus the 0 divided by 2. So that's just going to be 6. So negative 6 even, because it's negative 12. Oof. So x equals negative 6. So down the middle there, that is x equals negative 6. And then finding out my turning point, using my value of x equals negative 6, I'm going to put that in my equation. Now, I can put it in this unfactorized form or the factorized form. Doesn't matter which. I'm going to put it in the factorized one just because sometimes that can be a little bit nicer to work with. So substituting that negative 6 in, so I'm going to have negative 6 times that negative 6 plus 12. So it's going to be negative 6, and then that will be a positive 6. So that's just going to be negative 36. So my turning point is going to be at negative 6, negative 36. So I want to label that on somewhere. Negative 6, negative 36. And then I just join my dots together, creating that curve. And that's how to sketch a graph. So it's just about combining all those little bit of details together. Just make sure that when you are calculating these values, you are also doing your best to sketch it, because unfortunately you don't get the marks unless it's on the graph. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with the work.